Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Room. So last time we left off, we were walking through a door that to me looked kind of like Aztecian. I don't know how else to say it, but it looked like that. So, yeah, we're starting out here. And this is another voiceover one, so I've already played this, it's all done. Today though, we're going to be talking about Steven Universe. So, I mentioned in one of my other videos for The Room, one of my list videos, I think it was the last one actually, that I would talk more about Steven Universe, because I have questions, and I have a lot of questions. Also, I'm really sad I didn't have the lens on for that part, because I really wanted to know what that symbol was. Anyways, so, if you haven't seen Steven Universe yet, please go watch it, and ignore this video. Because there are most very likely going to be at least a little bit of spoilers in here based on the questions. But let's get started. And yeah, I mean, I'll talk as I go. Anyways, how did gem/human procreation become a thing? It's assumed that gems do not have sex organs or reproductive organs since they are formed in a rock and don't procreate the same way. So how did Greg's organic matter mesh with Rose Quartz's gem to create Steven? And then I asked, like, is sex even a thing for gems? Like, I imagine that it's not. I imagine that, like, if Greg were to have mentioned it to Rose, she probably would have been like, oh, silly humans, you know? And Pearl probably would have been like, oh my god, a disgusting human thing. That's kind of how I imagine that happening. Because from what we can gather, based on context clues, gems don't have sex organs, and gems don't have sex. And so I have the weird but probably kind of inappropriate question, and I already know that I'm pretty sure Rebecca Sugar is like, this is not the point, and like it doesn't matter. But I'm still curious, you know, like, how did it happen? Did Greg have to do something with his genes? Did they only need his genes, or was there something else happening that needed to happen? You know what I mean? I don't know how else to phrase that. But, like, I'm just so curious, like, how did it happen? How did Rose know that she was going to no longer exist as the form that she was, and that she was going to become part of Steven, if gem and human procreation had never happened before? If that wasn't a thing before, how did she know what was going to happen? I'm just really curious about it all. Like, the whole time, it's not really important to the story, but it's just, like, scientifically, I'm like, how does that happen, though? What happened? What made you guys think of this thing? And then do it. You know what I mean? It's not important to the story, but I'm just curious. What exactly is fusion, and why is it so disgusting to gems, especially when gems of other caliber fuse together? And then I also put in my notes, I know it's likely an allegory for queer relationships. Anything that isn't straight is deemed as disgusting to people who see it that way, but I'm curious, in the universe of Steven Universe, why is that the case? So, taking out of context our actual world around us and just focusing on Steven Universe's world, like, why is it okay for, like, rubies to form together, but it's not okay for a ruby to mix with a sapphire? And, like, for that one, you could potentially put it up to class. They're, like, different classes and that kind of stuff. But even the diamonds think that fusing is disgusting. Like, one diamond would never mesh with another diamond. But they're technically of the same caliber. So it's like, why are they so offended by it? Why is it such a disgusting thing? I'm just really curious. And, like, what exactly is fusion? Because obviously we know it's, like, an intermingling of the two souls, and, like, you can have, like, a very romantic sort of association with it. Which could partially be why the gems view it as gross. But in that sense, like, because the gems are definitely not sexual, I think that they are romantic. Like, clearly Pearl has feelings for Rose, and, like, you could say that it's platonic, but she gets, like, super jelly whenever Greg is around, and she's like, I'm a better fit for you than Greg is, what the heck? And so for me, I'm like, I feel like that's not just friendship. Like, clearly Greg is romantically involved with Rose, and Pearl is like, I would rather be Greg. I want you to want me the same way that I want you, and the same way that you want Greg, and all that kind of stuff. So, like, Pearl is clearly into Rose. She's clearly dedicated to Rose, and I'm pretty sure that she's in love with her. And like, love can be something a little bit different to the gems than it is to humans. I don't know, but I still would phrase it as romantic, you know? But like, clearly fusing doesn't really have a ton to do with romance, because gems who aren't romantic will fuse with each other. The rubies, for instance, they don't have to be romantic to fuse, it just increases their power. So it has that whole aspect to it, but also, like Rose, I mean, Pearl loves fusing with Rose, and Pearl also loves the way that she feels when she fuses with Garnet. And she's not in love with Garnet, but she's in love with herself when she's paired with Garnet. And so, like, it's a very complex and complicated thing, I think, to really look at, and try and, like, dissect. And I think Rebecca Sugar will never really give us an actual answer for this either. But, like, obviously there's a lot of symbolism in there. There's a lot of, like, meaning in there, but it probably will never translate one-to-one with a human experience, which is totally fine. I'm just really curious, like, what's the closest that we could get, you know, just to better understand it. Next question. Can Steven fuse with humans because he's part human? Is that why Pink/Rose couldn't fuse with Greg when he tried? Because so far, like, and that one's kind of a little question that can probably easily be answered. The answer is most likely yes, it's because he's half human. But we don't really know, because I don't think we've seen any other gems try to fuse with an actual human. Like, the gems, I think, have tried to fuse with Steven before, and I think they have fused with Steven. It's been a while since I've actually seen the show now. It's been like 6 months, something like that. But from what I can recall, the gems did either try or they actually succeeded to fuse with Steven at one point. And obviously, why am I blanking on her name? The only name that's coming into my head is Stevani. And then, oh, Connie, sorry. My brain is like, Bonnie, her name is Bonnie. It's not Bonnie, it's Connie. Anyways, like, Connie is the only human that has fused with Steven that we know of, I think. I don't think Greg fused with him, right? No, wait, he totally did. Oh my god. Sorry, I'm having flashback memories. Anyways, like, why is Steven the only one, is my question. It's probably because he's half human, half gem, and that way he's got DNA from both, so he can, like, he can go both ways. And, like, gems maybe can't do that because they don't have any of that, but that makes me wonder then, again, how did Greg and Rose come together? Because in a way it's kind of like fusion, but not. It was like Rose fused with a part of Greg, and that created Steven. So in order for Steven to exist, like, she would have to disappear completely because she would become part of him, kind of like fusion. But Greg is still a full human being intact, and so I'm kind of curious about that. Also, does that make Greg asexual? Just, sorry, totally curious. Some of these questions I feel like would be maybe a little inappropriate to ask, like, the actual characters, and so I don't actually need an answer. These are just my own questions that I was having while I was watching the show, my own ponderies. Will Steven be okay? So I wrote in here, I feel like the series ended with him leaving behind his support system to figure himself out, which is fine, and maybe smart, since they will always be there for him, but he didn't even bring a portable warp pad that Bismuth might have been able to make so that he can get to the gems or Beach City in a pinch. So, like, he's probably got a cell phone. I'm pretty sure he's got a cell phone. Obviously he talks to Connie all the time. Connie's going away to college. He's going away to college, like, although I think Connie's a little bit younger, so she might still be in high... I don't remember. Anyways, he's going off on his own. Connie's going away to college. And then, like, all of the gems are staying in Beach City, but if he's going off on his own, it's going to take him a while to get back to Beach City if ever he needs to, you know? So that was kind of my question with that, because I was just a little confused, I guess, with that. Wondering, like, his whole support system is there, and I get for his own mental health he wanted to go out and see the world beyond Beach City, and experience life maybe without the gems for once, because he's had them with him for so long and he's trying to kind of be on his own a little. But they are still his family and his support system, and they're all gone now because he left. And again, totally fine, totally valid, but like, what's gonna happen to him? I'm just so curious. And like, Steven's such a sweetie that like, that was my biggest question at the end, is I was just like, this is bittersweet, because I know he's probably gonna grow a lot and he's been through a lot of shit, but like, is he gonna be okay? Because right now we know that he's not okay. That's why he's leaving, to go and like find himself a little bit more. And like, and when I say find himself, I don't mean in like the stereotypical way. Like, he's literally like, I need to find out who I am on my own without the gems, because my whole identity has been that I'm a gem. And like, that he's half human, yeah, but that he's a gem. And so he's like, I need to be without the gems, separate them from myself, so that I can figure out who I am just as me. Who is Steven, not who is Steven with Rose and Steven with Pearl and all of these other gems and everything. Like, I want to be me. And so I get it, but I'm so curious if he's gonna be okay. Like, I'm so worried about him. Oh, what about Aquamarine and Eyeball? The last time we saw them, they flew off together, threatening that they will always be watching and waiting. So are they still a threat? And I feel like if I read some of the comics, they might kind of discuss this stuff or show this stuff, what happens after Future. I don't really know though, because I don't read any of them. But I am curious, because like, Aquamarine and Eyeball still have a vendetta against Steven and the gems, but particularly Steven. And so that was my other biggest worry for like, is he gonna be okay? Because are those gems going to follow him? And if they are, like, what is he gonna do? Because I'm sure he could probably maybe take them on his own, but like, he doesn't have a warp pad that we know of. There aren't any other warp pads elsewhere on Earth necessarily. There might be, but who knows if he's going to be near one. Would he be able to call for help if he needed to? Would he be able to warp back to the gems if he needed to? Like, if he got attacked by other gems on his own, would he be okay? That was kind of my thing. But particularly with Aquamarine and Eyeball, because they were like two of the gems that were still antagonistic at the end of the series, and they were the only two gems that weren't really like cool with the way that things had changed on Earth. Speaking of though, there's also Jasper. So I put, will Jasper finally make an effort to blend in with the other gems? What's her stance on fusion? Because Jasper obviously did fuse at one point, but it was like a very toxic kind of fusion. It was a very controlling and abusive kind of fusion. And like, since then, I can't quite remember, but I think since then Jasper was not like very into fusion. I think she wanted to fuse with someone in particular. I can't quite remember, but other than that, I think she wasn't really interested. I could be completely wrong on that. I don't really remember. I just remember at the end, like, she's sort of kind of trying to fit in with the new gem human society that Steven and the gems have built, but she's also still like not cool with it, if you know what I mean. So like she's there, but she's also like, I'm completely on my own, I'm a lone wolf, like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna be out in the woods. But every now and then I'll come see you guys, because whatever, you're the only gems that I know. So like, she's kind of there, but also not. She's like a little wishy-washy. So I was kind of curious about her and like how she was gonna deal with everything also. And because everyone else is like very accepting of her, but she's still a little like grr sometimes. Will the other diamonds ever fuse or attempt fusion, or do they still think it's disgusting for themselves? They never did show their opinions of it changing, though they still love Steven. So that was kind of a big thing, is that they were like super disgusted by fusion, from what I can remember. And like, even though they don't understand why Steven would want to fuse, why any gems would want to fuse, because again, they think that it was like disgusting, they were like, absolutely not. Also, this is really cool, this part. Kind of blowing my mind. But yeah, they were like super duper not down with fusion. And that's the thing though, is you can be against something for yourself, but still be accepting of it for others. And I kind of feel like that's the stance that they ended up taking, is that they themselves probably never attempt fusion. They've probably never done it, and they probably don't plan on doing it because they maybe still think, ew, I don't want to do that for myself, but, like, Steven is, like, one of us, because he's a diamond, and so, like, this is the path that he's taking, and we're gonna respect it. It takes them a long time to get there, just saying, but, I don't know. I feel like they probably never try it, but I'm just curious if they, like, in their alone time, were they ever like, you know, Pink really does like doing this, and, like, the other gems like doing this, and we might think it's disgusting, but, like, do you want to try it? Like, I'm kind of curious if they've ever tried it. Let's see, why don't the diamonds just use warp pads like the other gems? Are they too big? I assume that they are too big to use warp pads because they're massive, but, like, they always come down in ships, and I don't remember if it was in the movie or in future or at the very end of the main series, but I remember White Diamond, I think, complaining, like, oh, Steven, you never see us enough, and when we want to come see you, we always have to take the ships. And I just remember going, like, well, why take the ships? If there's warp pads, why not just take the warp pads? And so that was where that question came from, because I was like, wait, are they too big? Maybe they literally can't fit in the warp pads. And they're, like, the only ones that can't use warp pads, which is kind of weird. You'd think that there would be, like, a giant diamond warp pad for them, but I don't know. When did Steven and Connie start dating, and why weren't we allowed to see their first kiss or their romance blossom? There was just a time jump, and suddenly they were together. Of course, we all shipped it and expected it, but it would have been nice to see them both realize or confess their feelings for each other, and that they love each other and wanted to be together. So this was one of those things that I actually was really disappointed about, that they didn't show a little more of the romance. Like, they start off as being friends, and then they learn about each other a lot, and they grow together, and, like, they have their issues every now and then. And, like, there's all that stuff. And I feel like in the movie and in future, there was not enough Connie. Connie wasn't there enough for me. I wanted to see more of Connie. And it kind of felt like she became, like, in the main series, she became a main character in a way. Kind of a secondary character, but also a main character. Because I felt like her role in Steven's life was, like, integral to his life and how he developed. And of course we all shipped them because they were such good friends and they worked so well together, like, as Stevani, and, like I feel like a lot of us were both cool with them being friends forever, but also I feel like a lot of us, like, romantics out there were like, please let them become lovers and, like, be there for each other romantically also, and also just be the best of friends still. Like, that would be amazing. Like, I don't know, might just be me, but I don't think so. I think a lot of us shipped them together, and so it was kind of disappointing that we didn't really get to see that romance blossom. There wasn't, like, an episode where they, like, discovered their feelings for each other necessarily, and where they admitted it to each other, because I mean, I think you can tell that they both kind of have a crush on each other, and I think they can both tell that they both have a crush on each other, but they remain friends. And that's totally fine, but, like, I kind of wish that they would have had at least one episode where it was them discussing how they feel about each other and how important their friendship is, but also that, like, as they're getting older, maybe they want to try and be a couple, but that they also don't want to ruin their friendship or something like that. I don't know. I just kind of wish that we could have seen it blossom a little bit more. We just discover that at some point they started dating, and then Steven tries to propose to her. And for me, I'm like, okay, this is moving really fast now, though, because we didn't even get to see them fall in love. We didn't get to, I mean, we kind of got to see them fall in love, but we also didn't. We didn't get to, like, see it. There wasn't a single episode where it focused on their romance or anything like that. And so for me, I was a little disappointed in that, because I was like, wait. He's proposing. When did they start dating? They were dating? When did this happen? You know what I mean? So we have no timeline for when that all started. Again, that might be in the comics. I don't know, but it wasn't in the show, and so I'm a little sad about that. Oh, this one was kind of... I was just curious about this one. It doesn't really matter. But, like, my question was, if the gems don't really have sexes, why are they all gendered as females? And then I put, again, I realize this is likely a portrayal of non-binariness in a sense, which I love, but in universe, how does that compute? Because, like, there's a lot of things in the show that, like, obviously they have meaning or symbolism or allegorism. I don't know how else to say that. They mean something else. Like, there's stuff that's happening in the show, but it means something else. Or there's aspects of the show that mean something else. I probably could have used the lens with this, but I didn't. But anyways, so, like, that was just one of those curious things that, like, I'm just sitting there going, like, you know, if they don't have sexes, why are they all gendered as women? And I don't have any issue with that at all. I was just curious. I was like, why are they all technically women? It's interesting. Because they're all she's. Or at least they use the pronoun she. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're women, because again, they don't have the sex organs for it that we know of. But it was just curious. I was just very curious about it. I was like, why is that? Creative choice, obviously, and I love it, but, like, I was just curious. Let's see. Will Steven have other diamond powers that become a thing on his adventure away from home? How will he cope with them? So in future, he struggled a lot with new powers that he was getting. He struggled a lot with trauma that he was dealing with. And that was part of the reason why I was like, is he going to be okay? Because he's literally in the middle of such hard stuff right now. And, like, is he going to be okay? And that was another thought, is I was like, what if he gets new gem powers and, like, people around the world, which kind of leads to my next question. Are there more gems not living in Beach City that Steven and the Crystal Gems don't know about? Are there other gems and other places that maybe they haven't found, or are all of the gems just focused in Beach City now? Because if that's the case, like, again, what if Steven comes across gems who don't like humans, or gems who are bad, and he doesn't have his normal gem support group with him? And maybe he's getting these new powers. What if he goes somewhere and he gets new powers and no one understands him because he's a gem and no one has ever seen or heard of a gem? So, like, I'm very worried about him in real life. Like, in his real life, you know what I mean? So there's that. I put, what about the cluster? Yellow Diamond offered to fix all the gems that created it, but we never got to see her do it. Did she go through with it, or is it still just a big hand in the earth? So that one's pretty much there. Like, we see the cluster a couple times. Yellow said she was going to fix it. We never see her do it. Did it happen? What will happen with Lars and Sadie? We never see them get together, even though they like each other, which is fine, and we know they discussed their feelings for each other and decided to go their separate ways. But will that change in the future? Will they still be friends? Will Lars fall in love with anyone at all, human or gem? So that one was another, like, kind of disappointing, bittersweet sort of thing that they ended up doing, is, like, the whole time kind of teasing Lars and Sadie together and then not going through with it. And again, it makes sense. For their characters to not be together kind of makes sense, but I also wish that they would have shown it happen. Like, I wish that they would have shown them dating and shown it not work out, but them still respect each other and love each other as human beings. I think that would have been really great to see. Will there be more human-gem hybrids now that gems are mixing with humans in society? Will gems have the same rights as humans now that they're in society, or do they get special alien rights because they are from space? Do they have to go through immigration customs if they come from homeworld? How is the government going to handle this? Will there be gem discrimination and hate? How will gems handle this? How will humans handle this? So that one's pretty self-explanatory. I only have one more question. Did Rose have any other secrets? Will Steven ever forgive his mom for the burden she placed on him? Will he finally find peace when it comes to her? Can he still love her even if she's flawed? So those are my last two questions. I don't have a lot of time left in this video, but thank you guys so much for joining. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your questions. And that was the video. Bye!